Welcome to Revenge Story Hub. Tonight, we dive into 9 cheating revenge stories. Real tales of betrayal, heartbreak, and sweet justice served cold. Sit back, relax, and get ready for stories that will keep you hooked until the very end. Story 1. Caught red-handed at our anniversary. I never thought I'd be the type of person to share a revenge story, but here I am. My ex and I had been together for almost 5 years. Things weren't perfect, but I thought we were stable. He had his flaws, but he always told me I was the one. On our 5-year anniversary, I spent weeks planning a small surprise dinner. I booked a nice restaurant, picked up his favorite dessert from a bakery across town, and even bought him a watch he'd been eyeing for months. I was excited. Maybe stupidly so. That afternoon he texted saying he was working late. Something about it felt off. I don't know why, but instead of heading to the restaurant, I drove to his office. My gut was screaming at me. Sure enough, his car wasn't there. I called his coworker, who casually mentioned he'd left hours ago, so I went back home trying to calm down, hoping I was just being paranoid. When I walked in, I immediately noticed 2 wine glasses on the counter. My heart dropped. The bedroom door was slightly ajar, and I could hear laughter, her laughter. I pushed the door open, and there they were, my boyfriend in bed with someone I had never even seen before. They both froze like deer in headlights. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. Instead, I smiled. I calmly placed the anniversary gift on the dresser and said, "Happy 5 years." Then I pulled out my phone and snapped a photo. My ex jumped up yelling, but I walked right past him. The next day, I sent that photo to his parents, his siblings, and even his boss. I attached a little note. This is how he chose to celebrate our 5-year anniversary. Within 48 hours, his mom called me to apologize for how he'd treated me. His siblings roasted him in the family group chat. And his boss? Well, apparently she didn't take kindly to him using work hours for personal pleasure. He was written up for misuse of company time. Meanwhile, I returned the watch for a full refund and used the money to book myself a weekend getaway. While he was busy dealing with his destroyed reputation, I was sipping cocktails on the beach. The sweetest part? A week later, he texted me begging to talk. I left him on red. Story 2. The surprise party she'll never forget. I thought I knew my girlfriend. We'd been together for 3 years, and I was already planning to propose. Everyone in our friend circle thought we were the perfect couple. But perfection shattered the night before her birthday. I was out shopping for decorations and a cake when her best friend accidentally texted me instead of her. The message read, "Can't wait to see you tonight, babe." My heart stopped. I knew instantly it wasn't meant for me. I didn't confront her right away. Instead, I went through with the birthday surprise. I invited her family, her friends, even her co-workers to our apartment. She thought I was planning something big, and I was, just not the way she expected. The night of the party, everyone gathered, waiting for her to arrive. I had balloons, lights, and a giant cake with her name on it. When she walked in, she looked so happy. Until she saw who was standing beside me. I'd invited the guy she was cheating on. Easy. I replied to her best friend's text from my phone, pretending to be her. I told him where and when to come. He showed up right on time, bouquet of flowers in hand. The room went silent. Everyone turned to look at her, then him, then me. I stood up and said, "Happy birthday to the woman who's been sleeping with this guy behind my back." Surprise. Gasps, whispers, and one very awkward silence filled the room. Her mom looked devastated. Her dad looked ready to throw the guy out the window. Her friends couldn't even look at her. She burst into tears, trying to explain, but no one wanted to hear it. I handed her the cake knife and said, "Go ahead, blow out the candles, make a wish for your next relationship." Then I walked out. By the time I got home that night, my phone was flooded with messages from her family apologizing to me and cutting ties with me. The guy she cheated with, he bolted as soon as the truth came out. Her birthday party turned into her public humiliation, and I didn't have to raise my voice once. Story 3. Her wedding, my mic drop. My ex-fiancée cheated on me 6 months before our wedding. I found out when her maid of honor accidentally let it slip after a few too many drinks. At first I wanted to call the whole thing off immediately, but then an idea hit me. Why let her off so easy? I stayed calm, acted normal, and continued with the wedding plans. Everyone thought I was the happiest groom to be, and she believed I was clueless. Inside I was boiling, but I knew patience would make the revenge sweeter. Fast forward to the wedding day. The church was full, her family glowing with pride, my family quietly supportive. She walked down the aisle in her white dress, looking like an angel. But all I saw was betrayal. When it was my turn to say my vows, I took a deep breath and pulled out my phone. I had printed screenshots of her messages with the guy she'd been seeing, flirty texts, hotel receipts, even selfies. I handed them to the officiant and said, "Before I promise my life to someone, I'd like to share who she really is." Gasps filled the room. Her mother nearly fainted. The groom's side, my family, looked stunned but supportive. Her bridesmaids, they tried to hide their faces. She froze, eyes wide, whispering, "Please don't," but it was too late. I read aloud a few choice messages. "Last night was amazing, can't wait to do it again." Then I dropped the mic, literally. I told the guests, "This wedding is off. But thank you all for coming. Please enjoy the open bar, it's already paid for." The room erupted. Some people laughed nervously, others walked out in shock. I walked away with my family behind me, head held high. She tried to call me later, begging to explain, but I never answered. Instead, I uploaded the screenshots to a private group chat with both families, so no one could pretend it hadn't happened. The best part? The venue refunded half the cost since the wedding didn't go through, and I used that money to take a trip to Europe. While she was left humiliated in front of everyone she knew, I was sipping wine in Italy, free at last. Story 4. The roommate who exposed him. Back in college, I was dating this guy for about a year. We weren't living together yet, but he basically spent every night at my dorm. My roommate Lisa and I were really close, and she always had my back. One Friday night, I had to go home for a family emergency. I told my boyfriend I'd be gone for the weekend. He said he'd miss me, kissed me goodbye, and promised he'd spend the time catching up on his assignments. But Lisa texted me the next morning, "Hey, are you sure you trust him?" I was confused, so I asked why. She told me he'd brought another girl into our dorm room that night. Lisa pretended to be asleep but recorded the whole thing on her phone, him walking in with the girl, making out on my bed, and even bragging about how I'd never find out. I was furious but didn't let him know. Instead, I told Lisa to keep the video safe. When I got back Sunday night, I acted normal. He kissed me like nothing had happened. A week later, we had a big party at the dorms. Everyone was there. Friends, classmates, even some professors who liked to check in. I connected my laptop to the projector to play a funny slideshow Lisa and I had made for the party. But before the slideshow started, guess what played? Yep, the video. The entire room watched in silence as my boyfriend stumbled into my room with another girl. The sound was clear as day, him laughing, saying, "She's too dumb to notice." When the lights came back on, he looked like he wanted to sink into the floor. People were booing, some laughing, others just staring at him in disgust. I stood up and said, "Thanks for proving me wrong, babe. We're done." The room cheered. Needless to say, his reputation on campus was destroyed overnight. He couldn't walk across the quad without people whispering or pointing, and Lisa, she became my best friend for life. Story 5. Justice served at the restaurant. My ex-boyfriend worked as a server at a fancy restaurant downtown. I trusted him, or at least I thought I did. One night, I had plans with friends, but they bailed last minute. Instead of going home, I decided to stop by the restaurant to surprise him and grab dinner alone. When I walked in, I spotted him immediately. But he wasn't serving tables. He was sitting at one. With a woman. Their hands were locked together across the table, and he kissed her fingers like some kind of rom-com scene. I froze. The hostess noticed me and whispered, "Isn't that your boyfriend?" My stomach dropped. I asked her to seat me where I could see everything, and I pulled out my phone. For the next 20 minutes I recorded them flirting, holding hands, and finally kissing. All while he was supposed to be on his shift. Instead of confronting him there, I waited until the end of his shift. He came over, shocked to see me, and stammered, "What are you doing here?" I smiled sweetly and handed him a flash drive. He looked confused. I said, "That's your performance tonight. Maybe you'll want to watch it before your boss does." Then I left. The next morning, I sent the video to his manager. Within hours, he was fired, not just for cheating, but for abandoning his shift and using company time for personal entertainment. As for the other woman, she dumped him too after finding out the truth from me directly. Meanwhile, I became something of a legend among the restaurant staff. Every time I went back there with friends, they'd wink and say, "We still talk about how you served him justice." He lost his job, his side piece, and me, all in one weekend. Story 6. The Honeymoon Fund Payback. My ex and I were engaged, planning a big wedding. We had even started a joint savings account specifically for our honeymoon. Both of us put money into it every month, and I was so excited about the thought of traveling together as husband and wife. Then one day, while he was in the shower, his phone buzzed. Normally I wouldn't snoop, but the notification preview read, "Last night was amazing." Curiosity and dread took over. I opened the thread and saw weeks of texts with another woman, flirty messages, photos, even jokes about how clueless I was. I felt like throwing up, but instead of confronting him right away, I decided to play it smart. Over the next 2 months, I kept contributing to the honeymoon fund, just like normal. He had no idea I knew. When the account hit nearly $7,000, I went to the bank and withdrew every cent. Why? Because the account was under my name only. He never noticed. He just kept sending me his half, assuming I was depositing it. Then I sent him a simple text. "Check the honeymoon fund." 10 minutes later, he called me in a panic. I didn't answer. Instead, I posted screenshots of his cheating texts on our shared wedding website. Friends, family, and even his co-workers saw it before I deleted the page entirely. He showed up at my apartment that night screaming about how I'd stolen from him. I calmly explained, "I didn't steal. I took back what you never deserved." And then I booked myself a 2-week trip to Greece with that money. While he was left trying to explain to everyone why his wedding was called off and his fiancée disappeared, I was eating gyros on the beach and living my best life. Story 7. The Work Conference Affair. My husband was supposed to be at a work conference out of town for 3 days. I trusted him completely, packed his bag, kissed him goodbye, and even slipped a little note into his luggage wishing him luck. The first night, I called him to check in. No answer. He texted back hours later. Sorry, long meetings. Exhausted. Love you. Something about it felt rehearsed. The next morning, I logged into our shared tablet. He forgot to disable the photo sync from his phone. And there it was, a hotel mirror selfie, him shirtless, and a woman in lingerie blurred in the background. My hands were shaking, but instead of breaking down, I got to work. I emailed the photo to myself, then did some digging. I found the conference schedule online. Turns out, the conference ended at 5 p.m. each day, but his photos were timestamped well after midnight. I called his boss's secretary, who I knew well, and casually asked how the conference was going. She said, "Conference? That ended yesterday afternoon." That was all I needed. When he got home, I acted normal. I greeted him, kissed him, asked if he had fun. That night, as we sat down to dinner with some of his co-workers, people he had invited over to brag about his big trip, I pulled up the photo on the TV. Gasps, silence. His boss looked furious. His co-workers excused themselves quickly. My husband turned pale. I calmly said, "Funny how your conference had better amenities than advertised." The fallout was brutal. His boss demoted him for lying about company time. The woman in the photo dumped him when she realized he was married, and I filed for divorce with a smile on my face. The best part, our prenup was ironclad in my favor. He lost the marriage, part of his paycheck, and his reputation, all in one move. Story 8. The laptop that told the truth. I dated this guy who was obsessed with his laptop. He took it everywhere, work, gym, even vacations. He always claimed it was for business, and I believed him. Until one night when he left it at my place by accident. He had no idea I knew his password. It was his dog's name plus his birth year. Real genius. Out of curiosity, I opened his messages. What I found wasn't business. It was dozens of chats with multiple women, some flirty, some explicit, some even planning meetups while I was at work. My chest burned, but instead of confronting him right away, I came up with a plan. A week later, he invited a bunch of friends over for game night. He loved showing off his new projector, so I helped set it up. What he didn't know was that I had prepared a slideshow of his little conversations. As soon as everyone settled in, I hit play. The first slide. Screenshots of him texting, "She'll never find out. She thinks I'm at work." Then came photos, hotel receipts, even voice messages. The room went dead silent. His best friend's girlfriend gasped, "That's me!" Turns out, he wasn't just cheating on me. He was sleeping with people inside our friend group. He jumped up, tried to turn off the projector, but it was too late. Everyone had seen it. Friends stormed out, people blocked his number right then and there, and I stood up, grabbed my bag and said, "Game over. Good luck finding a new team." The fallout was glorious. He lost half his friends, got kicked out of his roommate's place, and ended up sleeping on his brother's couch. And me? I walked away with my dignity and the satisfaction of knowing his precious laptop betrayed him better than I ever could. Story 9. The Anniversary Getaway from Hell. We had been together for 4 years, and to celebrate our anniversary, my boyfriend suggested a weekend getaway in the mountains. It sounded romantic, cozy cabin, fresh air, just the two of us. I was thrilled. But 2 days before the trip, I got an email confirmation from the rental company. My name wasn't on the reservation, it was his and another woman's. My heart sank. He had accidentally forwarded the booking details to our shared email. I didn't confront him. Instead, I called the rental company, explained I was his fiancée, and asked to adjust the reservation. They were happy to help. I added myself to the booking and paid for a few extras, a bottle of champagne, rose petals, the works. When the weekend came, I told him I had to work late and couldn't make it. He played it cool, pretended to be disappointed, and left with his other woman. 2 hours later, I drove up to the cabin. I walked in with the spare key the company had emailed me, and there they were, half undressed, surrounded by the very champagne and roses I had ordered. The look on his face was priceless. He stammered, "This isn't what it looks like." But I cut him off. "Oh, it looks exactly like what I paid for." I pulled out my phone, snapped a photo, and texted it to his mom, his sister, and our mutual friends. Then I grabbed the champagne, toasted them both, and walked out. By the time I got home, his phone was blowing up. His family was furious. His friends mocked him in the group chat, and the woman he cheated with dumped him on the spot. As for me, I spent the rest of the weekend at a spa with the refund money from the cabin. He wanted a getaway from me. He ended up getting a lifetime of regret instead. That wraps up today's revenge story. If you enjoyed these stories of karma and justice, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and share. Join us here at Revenge Story Hub for more epic tales every week. Because nothing is more satisfying than a perfectly told revenge story.